Hello everyone, you're watching sqadia.com and today our lecture topic is the brain and we are on the section 1 of this, that is we'll be going through the general anatomy and general overview of the brain. We will be going through the gray matter and white matter and what are the divisions of the brain. So what is brain? Nervous system, as it is part of the nervous system. So the nervous system is composed basically of specialized cells whose function is to receive sensory stimuli and transmit them to effector organs, whether muscular or glandular. The nervous system is divided into two main parts for the purpose of description: the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. What are the sensory stimuli? If we are hearing something or if I'm sensing something, that is actually transmitted to the muscles or my glands. If I smell delicious food, automatically my brain connects this, and actually this effector organ is the glands in the mouth, which get stimulated and become watery. So what parts makes it central? What composed of central nervous system and what is peripheral nervous system? Central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. In the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord are the main centers where correlation and integration of the nervous system occurs. The central nervous system is composed of large number of excitable nerve cells and their processes called neurons, which are supported by specialized tissue called neuroglia. We have discussed in the previous slides as well that the neuroglia are actually the supporting cells, which contains oligodendrocytes, astrocytes, and different other. In the peripheral nervous system, it's the Schwann cells, and all these actually are supporting cells. But the center of focus is actually the neuron, which is actually we've already discussed that there are multipolar neurons and there are bipolar neurons and different types of neurons actually available. But neuron is the main motor unit, a main unit of a nervous system, and where it is mainly present, it is present in the brain and the spinal cord. The interior of the central nervous system is organized into the gray and white matter. And why it is called as gray? It actually appears gray. And why it appears gray? Because it is composed of actually the cell bodies. The nuclei stain grayish blackish on the histopathological slides when you view it under the electron microscope. While the nerve sheaths are the axons, which are actually covered from the myelin sheaths, they appear white. That is why they are termed as white matter, and the gray matter is termed as gray matter because it contains the nerve cell bodies of the neurons. What are the divisions of the brain? Now, for the purpose of understanding it, the brain is actually divided into three main parts: the forebrain, the midbrain, and the hindbrain. If you start it up from the front, the major these two cerebral hemispheres form the forebrain, along with certain other structures, which is actually there's a diencephalon and telencephalon. Diencephalon form the core of the forebrain, while telencephalon are actually called as the cerebral hemispheres, which are from the outer part of the forebrain. Then there's a midbrain. There are very important structures in the midbrain, and we'll be discussing them in the different sections and upcoming sections of this lecture, and how they are actually related to the forebrain as well as the hindbrain, and how do they connect different parts of the brain with each other. Then comes the hindbrain, that is the pons and the medulla oblongata. Now, pons and medulla oblongata actually not only connect the fore and midbrain to the spinal cord, but actually form a conduit as well. There are different decussation and fibers are actually starting, which have started right from the cerebral hemisphere, actually pass through these structures in the hindbrain and eventually move to the spinal cord. And once they reach the spinal cord, the synapse, and then there's a role of peripheral nervous system. Then from the spinal cord arises those neurons which eventually go to the effector organs, which could be muscles or which could be glands. Now this is the diagram which is showing cerebral hemispheres, a lateral view of the brain basically. Now if you appreciate over, these are the cerebral hemispheres. This is the cerebellum. This is the medulla and oblongata and pons. You can only appreciate some part of it, which is mostly hidden under the two large cerebral hemispheres. This part, frontal lobe, is formed with, then there is a precentral gyrus, central sulcus, then postcentral gyrus. We'll be discussing what are sulci and what are gyri. Sulci are the depressions and gyri are the elevations of the cerebral cortex. Mainly it is divided into four lobes. There is a frontal lobe, there is a parietal lobe, temporal lobe, and occipital lobe. I will be discussing all that in detail in next sections. So in this section, we have covered a very general overview of the anatomy of the brain, how many divisions it has, and what is a gray matter and what is a white matter. We now know that gray matter is called as gray matter because it contains the neurons and nuclei mainly, and white matter is called as white matter because it contains mainly axons and myelin sheath. And the brain is actually divided into three sections for the purpose of understanding. Actually, it functions as a single unit. That is, there is a forebrain which is composed of diencephalon and telencephalon. Then there is a midbrain, and then there is a hindbrain which mainly composed of pons and medulla oblongata. For further information and for further sections, keep watching sqadia.com.